everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Coaching Call podcast. On this podcast, we'll cover various types of coaching by trainers in sports, martial arts, fitness, and business. We'll discuss each coach's methods to getting the most out of their respective athletes or clients and how they attempt to change the platform in which they coach. Join us on a fun adventure as we discuss unique coaching styles. Coaching is a universal part of how we get others to get something done. Join your host, Raphael, and his guests on this unique journey in coaching.
Hi, I'm Sifu Raphael, and this is the Coaching Call podcast. If you enjoy this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. This episode was made possible by listeners like you. Hey guys, welcome to the Coaching Call. Patrick, you are sideways. Is this going to be a sideways conversation, my friend? What do you think? There you are. All right. Welcome to Coaching Call. How's everything today? Hang on, I cannot hear you. Either you're muted. I'm just going to check everything on my end is good. Can you hear me? I can't hear you. So at the moment, I can't hear Patrick. He's going to go to where it says settings and check your audio for me, please. There's a little bar at the bottom. It says settings. Click on there so you can set your audio. There you go. Now we're on.
How about this?
Welcome.
Okay, cool. Great. Thank you. Sorry about the technical glitch
there. Come on early because sometimes there's technical difficulty. So tell me, where are you coming from?
I'm in Newfoundland in Canada, East Coast Canada.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I'm in New York, so there we go. We're fully connected. So happy to have you. So
good to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you are someone who totally, you help people in so many different aspects of their life, right? You advise them on business. You're a mentor and you're a life coach. Talk to us about what made you decide that you wanted to help other people.
So I was really, really busy from quite a young age. Like I started out at 14 years old in a food van on the beach in Southern Ireland selling burgers and fries. And since then, I built a couple of startups. I've also worked in companies and I was always full tilt, always foot on the gas. And about 4 or 5 years ago, I thought to myself, I've done really well. I've learned a lot of hard lessons as well. It wasn't all smooth. And the entrepreneur who says they've had a completely smooth journey is either dressing it up a little bit or they just after too many whiskeys.
Right. Absolutely.
So realistically, I said there was a bit of a life change as well, end of a phase of life in that I had just exited a long marriage. And I thought, you know what, the reality is here. My youngest son came to me and he said, why don't you just write a book about all the places you've been? Because I had traveled everywhere. And I just thought about it and I said, I've seen airports, taxis, aircraft, meeting rooms, hotels, and back again. So what have I actually seen? What have I taken in life? There's a big difference between the qualitative aspect of life and the quantitative aspect of life.
Correct.
And the quantitative side, I had hit my targets. I'd won some, I'd lost some. Overall, did well. But then on the qualitative side, I thought, what have I actually gained? So I said, let's take a step back. In 2018, November, I decided I was going to basically take off and go see the world. So I went to Scotland for the first couple of weeks, Christmas 2018. Partied a little bit, let off steam, got to meet.
So it seems that Patrick is having some audio difficulties also logging in. I think he may be logging in from his phone, and this is why we may be having a connection problem. One of the things that I have to admit with StreamYard is it's not really Wi-Fi friendly. I have to say that. So StreamYard needs to up their game and make it more Wi-Fi friendly so that people can actually, they claim that you can log in from your phone, but a lot of people complain that they lose connection, just like what's happening with Patrick and myself at this moment. So it looks like I totally lost Patrick. Hopefully he'll come back on. So Wi-Fi is not working as great as StreamYard would like. They always recommend a hard wire, and that is great. But nowadays with technology, a lot of people don't really have the hard wire. A lot of people are doing their work in coffee shops. People all over the world, they're not necessarily stuck to a wire, right? So, Patrick, thank you again for joining us. I was talking about that you may be on a Wi-Fi, and
Yeah.
StreamYard, it does not really like, for some reason, they claim they do, but they don't really like Wi-Fi. They want
I've just
everything
jumped
hard.
off Wi-Fi and got onto data, so that might help
Oh,
the
there you go.
situation.
Yeah. So that's the problem with StreamYard. You know, they
Mhm.
claim you can do mobile, you can do all this, but not really. You know, they
Nah,
still want
no.
us stuck somewhere instead of being mobile, right? To be able to move. Like you were just talking about moving all over the world, and you
Uh-huh.
basically saw airports and taxis. And when you were traveling, a lot of, even if you go to a hotel, it's not hardwired. Everything's
Mm,
Wi-Fi. So
absolutely.
StreamYard has to step up their game, don't they?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. What you see or what you hear and what you get are sometimes two different things.
Yes. Thank you for jumping back on. I appreciate what you were saying.
No
So
worries.
your son was talking to you and said you should write a book about all the places you saw. And in
Yeah.
reality, all you saw was taxis, Ubers nowadays,
Hmm.
and right,
Yeah.
airports, airplanes, conference rooms, and then back home. So
Yeah. And that
did
was
you
like
really see the world?
no, I didn't. And the unfortunate I met the people, but there was a
Mm,
business framework, it wasn't
yep.
about the social side of things. And I was gone for like an average of maybe 3 days a week when I was
Mm,
really busy. And I was like leaving Ireland, flying through London or Amsterdam, and then maybe taking a long haul flight to east or west. It could be China, it could be the US, so it wasn't just short haul flight.
right.
And I found that I had a lot of time, to kind of think about this and said, I need to see the world. I need to go see the world, but I need to also meet the people. I need to understand what the world is about. Take time to lift my head out of the laptop phone environment and have a look around and have a
Mm,
chat. One of the funny stories actually was I was in, I can't remember the city now, but I was slightly lost. It was all safe, but I just asked somebody for directions, and it was like I was some kind of alien. Why don't you use Google Maps? And that asking for directions in a store, a small store, turned into like a 15-minute conversation. Where are you
mm,
from? Why are you here? It was the initial bridge of trying to get over the idea of somebody having a face-to-face conversation.
right.
So for maybe a year, I was traveling around. I did maybe 10, 12 countries, met great people, had a really good time, got to see the world, got to travel, got to
Mm,
completely chill and do nothing when I wanted to. So the
mm,
qualitative part of life, which was getting to understand life, because we're here for a snapshot of time.
we are.
This universe is 13.8 billion years old. We get an average of, let's say, an average lifespan for a male is about 78, 79 years. That's a
Mhm.
very, very small fragment of time. We should use it
Oh, yeah.
um, to get the benefit of what we do, what we like to do. We need to pay the bills. We need to put bread on the table, as they say. And that's all good. That's all good. But we also need to enjoy and take time to look around and take time to appreciate what we've got.
Absolutely.
Irrespective, we can be, your everyday person. We can be, I know the people that have done really well. Actually, I spoke to a few of them and it was interesting to get that feedback. and this was like 100 millionaire and higher. And they kind of still value the benefit and the input of other people, enjoying a conversation, having a laugh.
Right.
You know, laughing is a great currency.
Without a
It
doubt.
absolutely is key. So that was it. Yeah. So I've been I traveled for the year. COVID came around, clipped my wings a little bit. It was funny how things happen, actually, because coincidence is is something that also comes into life very frequently, I should say. I had developed an infection control sleep surface for hospitals, like a mattress topper,
Right.
about 8 years ago. And when I developed the product first, the director of nursing that asked me to develop the product said, look, I need something that is pressure reducing, so it prevents pressure sores on long-term bedridden patients. It needs to be easy. It needs to be not difficult to decontaminate and disinfect.
Right.
So I designed SimCare, which is that topper product. And it sold really well. But I remember having a conversation with the director of nursing when I was presenting the finished product. And I said to her, I think the infection control function of the product and the ability to decontaminate the product while it's on the hospital bed is probably its best selling point. And she kind of said, yeah, it's a good selling point. But we want to prevent pressure sores. We want to have like something that's easy, that's not too expensive. So it's all good. It's great to have the infection control feature. She called me about 3 years ago, and she said, hey, I think there's an infectious disease coming around the corner. And COVID was on the way. Wow. And she said, I remember what you said about the infection control factor. And she said, it really has a big benefit now. So that brought me back into the work mode. But I didn't jump back into the work mode in the same way as I had previously done for like 15, 20 years. I jumped into work mode with my enjoyment hat on. You know, I wanted to be able to say, I've developed this product. I'm going to get a bunch of people around me that are like-minded, that want to make it happen, share the workload, share the results, and go for it. Make the product available. That's underway right now. And now that we're thankfully exiting the kind of extreme COVID era, we have time to get products into the healthcare system, and there are a bunch of good people doing that. But it's funny how things come around, you know.
It is true.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that you mentioned is that, you know, you want to get to travel and not only go to different places, but meet the people. Yeah. And to me, it's the connections that make everything, right? When I travel, one of the things I love to do is talk to the locals and eat where they eat, right? Because if you go where the tourists go, you don't really get to see what's going on in that place. So for me, it's always important to find a local and say, hey, man, where do you guys go for dinner? Where do you go for breakfast? You know, you're going to grandma's house. Is there an extra room for me? You know, so these are the things that will let you really, I guess, infiltrate the traditions of wherever it is that you're going to, because, you know, as a tourist, you're going into the tourist trap. They're going to give you what they think you want. But what you really want is you want the experience of what it's like if you live there for many years, right? So
totally, I love that. That's a great way to go. To add to that, I have a little bit of a recommendation, or I guess a visitor hack, if you want to call it. When I visit a new city, I jump into a cab and I say to the cab driver, I need to go to this place wherever I'm staying. It could be Airbnb or whatever it is. But on the way there, I'm going to give you like, how much is the rate? And let's say he says $15. I'd say like, I'll give you 40 or 50. I'll give you $50, but give me a tour of the city, the good places, the places to eat, where the locals go. So it completely mirrors what you've just said.
Yeah.
And I find then that the 1, 2, and 3 places that I want to go, if I want to go for a beer in the evening, then he'll have recommended a good place to go, a pub or a bar. If I want to go for a steak, he'll tell me where I need to go for a steak, etc. You know, and that tour guide has just given me, the local person on the ground has just given me 4 or 5 tips of where to go, where not to go. I asked that question as well.
That's important.
I need to know where not to go. If I come out of an Irish pub at 12 o'clock at night, I don't want to be going left instead of right. You know, I just want to be sure I'm okay. So it's all good. You're right. Connecting with people is super, super important.
Yeah.
And I think the faster we get back to having like normal face-to-face conversations and online conversations, shoot the breeze conversations like this on a mainstream basis, the better.
Yeah.
I love this kind of opportunity to have a chat with people and just, as I said, shoot the breeze.
Yeah. One of the things, and you talked about connections, right? And, the internet has allowed us to make even more connections. Look at the fact that you and
Mm-hmm.
I are making this connection, right? And we're not even near each other.
Absolutely.
And I love that.
Right
So
on.
one of the businesses that you started was an internet company many, many years ago, back in
Mm-hmm.
1999, right? So tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about that, and where do you see yourself, and what happened that your business was here and then and went that way?
It was probably my first big lesson in business timing. And I talked
Mm,
about the infection control product already. I think timing is key in any product or business.
correct.
Actually, jumping into the idea first, I was sitting at home in Ireland in 1997. I think it was late 96, maybe early 97. And I wanted to buy a car. And I was looking at this mass of data in front of me. I had like this weekly newspaper, I had magazines, I had the
Right,
whole
right.
kind of like hard copy stuff. And I thought, geez, this is hard. This is tough going. This is difficult. How am I going to trace through all of this? And I've always been a guy who looks at something and said, there has to be an easier way. There's
Yeah.
probably going to be my epitaph, there has to be an easier way. I don't know if that's driven by laziness or just want to see a better world or what, but
There's
I
always
looked at
got to be
this.
a better way. I agree with you,
There's
by the way.
and I really think that is like when people take what's the status quo and accept the status quo. I think we really need to question ourselves when we do that. We need to say, is there a better way to do this? I'm not saying we need to go around improving every hour of every day, but every now and then. So I was looking at this bunch of data and I said, if I could take this and put it into like what I call it at the time was a search and find program. Search engine wasn't even around.
Right.
And I said, how do I get that then? Okay. It was mulling around in my head, and when I get an idea, particularly, I'm like dog with a bone. I want to keep going until I find a way to make it happen.
Right.
So I was working in a local factory at the time, making peanuts salary. So I went in and I said, if I want to make this, I got to make it happen. How do I make it happen? Then I thought, there was an intern working here last week and he's studying computer science and he's computer programming. So he passed, coincidentally, he passed and I stopped him. I stopped the machine and I went over and I said, look, here's what I'm trying to do. Could you help me out? So he said, that's a really interesting, it's like an innovative idea. And he said, let me think about it for a day. And he came back the next day and he said, yes, I can make it happen. It's going to take like 6 weeks and it's going to cost X amount of money. I think it was like $300 or something he said at the time. But $300 to me at that stage, was young.
That's a
and
lot of
I
money.
had, like
Back in
probably
96,
spent my
97,
my
yeah.
money the night before. So I just said to him like, okay, I'll tell you what, if you can do it for $200 in 2 weeks, we can get it together and I'll give you a kind of a royalty on anything that we make afterwards. So you're kind of co-contributor. And I will give you a piece of the pie. 2 weeks later, he gave me a floppy disk, literally. It was that far ago, that long ago. And I plugged it in, couldn't wait to get home. The excitement and the enthusiasm,
Right.
So I punched it in. He had put in 300 like fictitious cars. And I put in Ford, Blue, $5,000. And up comes 3 options. And I thought, this is it. This is it. This is what I need to do. The excitement and the enthusiasm, for getting it out there. I had to then package it. How was I going to package and sell it? So it was my first entry into business. When I look back on that was a search engine business. It was a seedling. It was a fledgling search engine. A year later, I was still working. I was going to college by night. And I was fitting the business in between that. So it was like 7 o'clock in the morning start, finish at maybe 4, jump into this awful looking green suit, my sales costume, drive to all of the dealerships, the car dealerships, and sell this service, which was Autolink. I remember the first presentation I was in there, and the sales manager was looking at it and he was saying, like, what is this guy? This guy is, he's either off the scale now, he's lost his mind, or he's actually got some golden nugget here that I need to hear about.
Right.
So, because it was completely groundbreaking. And he looked at it and he, like, for 10 seconds, there was complete silence. And I said, oh shit, is this good or bad? I'm not sure. But he actually looked up at me and he said, that's amazing. I'm going to take it. But he said, I need to know your pricing. Will you work on a commission on cars sold basis? And I, like, on the fly, had to think, hold on, I can't even track how cars are sold. So I have to take people's word, and business is business and so on. Like, they were very good people to work with. But I didn't want to take any chances. So completely off the top of my head, and I said, I'll take a fixed rate per month, and then we'll take a secondary, like, lower commission per car sold. But I'll have to have a fixed rate. That covered my costs and got me a mini salary. Long story short, I had too much on my plate. I was working full-time job. I had a business in the middle. We built that from a bedroom, essentially, at home. And then I was going to college until like 10 o'clock, 7 to 10. So like, I was home at 11 o'clock and I was up again at 6 the next day. And I did that for a year. They were long, hard days.
I'm sure.
And I decided, you know what, I looked at the business and I said, I can't keep this going. I would love to keep it going. I also have to say, Raphael, I didn't have the knowledge or experience or guidance to bring it, to scale it up, to fund it, to drive it as a business. I was completely green. I was completely new. So I stopped that business. I made some money along the way. For that year, I made a very nice income from the business itself.
Right.
And I stopped it. A year later, which was, I think, end of 97, beginning of 98, Google started. So lesson learned. I should have stuck with that one. I should have stuck with Autolink. But I haven't had a bad run. I went into medical and healthcare, and I got into products that are good for people. I like designing products that are good for people, that are providing benefit. So I've been around medical, healthcare, some products in aerospace, some products in engineering, water, places like that. So I've had a very kind of varied career in that sense. But looking back on Autolink, that could have been a Google or a billionaire. Could have been one of the unicorns, let's say. Do I regret it? Absolutely not. The experience that I took from it, the life lessons that I picked up along the way, the energy that it gave me, the enthusiasm, the being able to differentiate between a winner and a loser in terms of product or product ideas or business ideas, and the network that I picked up, because I nurture my network a lot. I've got people that I know for 20 plus years. And the great thing about travel as well is I can pick up the phone to people right around the country, around the world, I should say. So if somebody says, do you know somebody in Argentina? I do. You know somebody in Tokyo? I do. So the big advantage of travel is exactly that. And travel broadens the mind. The old saying, it broadens the mind. It gives a different viewpoint.
It does. And I love that you brought that up, because when we think by ourselves, that's all we have. But when we incorporate the thoughts of other people, man, that's where you create a mastermind, right? When you bring, like 10, 20 people who are all thinking in high level, and they all come and become one big brain, man, the ideas, the energy, the flow, it's a beautiful thing, isn't it? It absolutely
Totally. And I had to learn that as I went along as well, because when I was a young kind of like spirited entrepreneur, let's say, I had my way, and I wanted to do it this way, and I wanted to get it done. And I walk into a meeting and say, okay, guys, I've got 3 minutes. You got to tell me, because I got another like 500 things to do before close today. Kind of spit it out. Let me know. And I realized fairly quickly that time is important. Team is very important. You cannot really get to the pinnacle that you may have set out without other people. And there's another aspect to it: listening and hearing. Listening is one thing, but hearing is another. Yeah. And what I do now with a bit more wisdom and more miles up is I hear, when I stop talking, I hear what people say.
It's very interesting that you said that. I only have 3 minutes, so spit all the ideas out. But what happened is, as an entrepreneur, you were a one-minded entrepreneur, right?
100%, yeah.
And you were only thinking of you. I only have 3 minutes, instead of
Hmm.
saying, I'm valuing what you have to say. Well, now you know the difference, right? And
Yeah,
now you're not a one-minded entrepreneur. You're multi-minded, right, if you will, because
absolutely.
everybody's ideas and impact is going to affect not only your world, but everybody's world, right?
Yeah.
So before,
And
you were just thinking solo, just me.
mhm.
It's my world. You guys, I'm letting you in my world, right? Now it's like, let's share this together. And you've grown so much since you realized that, right? Haven't you?
Yeah, and I realized fairly quickly, and the book that I am just about relaunching is just Startup, and it's like a guidebook for entrepreneurs, very
Mm,
much a kind of a story guidebook, where I'm just based downloading my experience and what to do's and what not to do's to try and help other people to avoid the mistakes that I made.
mm,
And it talks about, and I talk about hearing people. There are two
right.
major factors. There may be a real nugget of information that's crucial to what you're trying to do, number one.
Mhm,
But actually, that should be number two. Number one is you're giving people respect.
right.
You're actually listening and hearing what they have to say and
Mhm.
responding with a salient question, something that actually is relevant to what they've just said. That's the
Yes.
greatest degree of acknowledgement, you know?
That is it. That is it. We had Lynn Thomas on, and she gave a thumbs up. I think she enjoys the fact that we're having this conversation together today.
Cool,
When
thanks,
we
man.
when we think about entrepreneurs, when we think about people who are taking on a challenge and also following their dreams, right? It's a scary situation, and a lot of entrepreneurs think they have to go it alone. They have to be a solopreneur. And
Mm-hmm.
that's great. That's all good and dandy. But you will never be a true entrepreneur unless you incorporate the help of other people, right? Because
Totally.
it's the other people that are going to help you elevate. Listen, you can't build 100-story building by yourself, can you?
That is completely true and right on target.
Mm,
And I think if you democratize your thinking in that sense, and get people to join a team, like finding the right team is
mm,
extremely important. And that can be an employed team, i.e., within your business, or it can be the team that is your stakeholder team, your advisor team, your consultant team, the people that are hovering around, or the people that you sit down and have a coffee with just and have a chat.
yeah.
Or Friday evening, meet them and go for a drink or whatever, go for a game of golf on Saturday, whatever you want to do, as long as you
Mhm,
have people that you can offload or download what you're thinking and get a second opinion.
yeah.
I think that's really, really important, because if you hire the right people and if you engage with the right people and if you network with the right people, your speed of success, in my experience, is much, much faster.
Oh, yeah.
And the
Exponentially.
solopreneur factor is great. Sometimes we as entrepreneurs, we have to be solo. We have to start as the loner,
In the
because
beginning, yes.
in the beginning, because you have to convince, people say to me, well, how do I sell this idea? And I say, you don't sell, you convince. You
Mm,
convince yourself, first of all. Once you convince
right.
yourself that you've got something good, then you can
Yeah.
convince. I remember having this discussion with somebody who was very smart engineering, or engineer. They had developed this idea and this product. And they said, yeah, like this is what it does. And they said, but I'm not a salesperson. I can't sell this. And I just said, let me ask you a couple of questions. I said, do you believe that the product is valuable and it works? Do you believe it provides a valuable function? And they said,
Mhm,
yes. And I said, are you absolutely sure that that is the case? And they said, 100%, no question.
mhm.
I said, if you looked in the mirror, could you articulate that to yourself? Could you tell yourself that story and spread the news of that benefit? They
Yeah,
said, of course. And I said, well, you can do it to anybody. If you can convince yourself that you've got a good product or service, you can convince anyone else.
that's right.
Because anyone that has a right mind is going to look at it and say, I agree. The trappings of that are commercialization, which is pricing, positioning, marketing,
Mhm,
and all of the stuff that comes secondary, which is secondary, which your primary function is to add value or make a change,
right.
and do both ideally. So that's that one, yeah.
No, without a doubt, you have to, in the
Hmm.
beginning. And I like the fact that you said to convince, right?
Yeah,
Or to make them understand so that convincing, that salesmanship. And even like when you're selling anything, listen, if you ask someone on a date, you have to convince them to go out with you, right? So there's
totally.
no difference in selling, or selling yourself or selling a product. You
You're
have
dead
to
right.
let
And,
that.
and guess what? We're selling every single minute of every day. From the second we open our eyes, if we want to, like you said, ask somebody out on a date, if we want to go,
Yep.
if we get up in the morning and want to ask our partner for a coffee and to maybe whatever, take the kids to school, or
Yep.
because I'm busy, or we're selling something to get what we need to survive through our day and to make our day happen. I'm
Yeah.
not saying we should be completely selfish. No, that's a two-way street. but but we
Right.
are but we are selling from the second we open our eyes, and we need to realize that sales is sometimes the connotation is that it's like, oh, geez, not a salesperson, But we're all salespeople.
Yeah.
That is a
You know who are
fact,
the Patrick, you know who are the best salespeople?
Tell me,
You want to know? Kids.
probably
Kids.
you've hit the nail on the head. Yeah, absolutely, yeah,
Kids. You know why? Because they're persistent.
yeah.
Like if they want an ice cream, or if they want a lollipop, or if they're at the store and they
Mm.
nag, nag, nag. And what happens to the parents? They wear them down. Maybe not today, right? I
Uh-huh.
want this toy. I want this toy. I want this toy. No, no, no,
Mm.
no. Come back a couple of weeks later, that kid's running around with that toy. Why?
Yeah.
Because somebody listened to that kid. And it might not have been their parents. It could have been an aunt, an uncle, a grandma, a grandpa. But somebody said yes.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody. And it can sometimes, when we're selling a product, maybe that first person is going to say no. But when we quit, well, it'll
Uh-huh.
always be a no. We will never know what a yes feels like unless we continue. And kids know that. Because listen,
Totally.
here's I love this when you see a kid say, "Hey mom, can I have this?" No. And keep going on and on. And listen, the mom gets annoyed and she goes, "Go ask your dad." And she thinks that dad's going to say no. And dad's like, "Did you ask your mom?" And she said, "Maybe if I ask you." Maybe the kid lied a little bit, right? And then
Yeah.
the guy's like, "Oh, well, okay." Or no. And then all of a sudden, they don't stop with mom and dad. They're going to
No.
ask their grandma, their grandpa. They're going to ask someone
Mm-hmm.
outside. So they're very persistent. And when it comes to sales, like I said, they're the best salespeople.
100%. And I think the other skill that they have, I know when my sons were growing up, they would look and they would say, okay, is dad stressed today, or is he in a happy mood? They could sense the
Mm-hmm.
environment, and they also knew what was important to each person. So what you're doing is you're kind of, what they're doing is they're filtering and they're perceiving what's going to work with each parent or grandparent or a friend, whatever it is,
Yeah.
and they get to work the system. They get to kind of connect the dots and say, okay, if I go here, here, and if I get a no there, I'm going to go here. Like you said, they'll ask the mom, and if mom says no, go away, that's not happening. Out to dad, and dad is sitting there, maybe relaxing, and you're kind of going like, well, mom is busy, so she said that I should come out and ask you, what do you think about this? And then before you know.
Yeah. So before you know it, it's going to happen. I lost Patrick again. This is what happens when we do things on the internet. One of the most important things that we have to remember is that anytime we go live, things are going to happen. Yes, technology is getting better. It is. I have faith that it's going to get better and better. And the other faith that I have is that whatever is out there now that we're going to experience 50 years from now is there today. So for those of you who think that we have it all, we don't. We're just scratching the surface. So I'll keep talking, and I just lost them entirely again. So I'm enjoying this conversation that I'm having with Patrick. And by the way, he's got a great accent. Obviously, he's from Ireland. But here's the thing, right? as an entrepreneur, as a person, even if you're not an entrepreneur and you work for someone else, the whole thing is that you should enjoy. And he was talking about how life expectancy is probably 78 years, but you need to enjoy your life every time that we do these things. Patrick, welcome back, my friend. It's
Third time lucky.
here's the thing, right? You make me want to talk.
That's a good
So
thing. That's a good thing.
it's a good thing. I don't mind talking. So you were talking about, and we were both talking about the salespeople that kids are, and how incredibly they will take on any challenge when they are told no, right? But what happens when they get older and older and older, and all of a sudden they're afraid to ask? What is it that happens? And I think it's people saying no over and over and over and over again, and it diminishes their will or their desire to ask. But I
Life
always
beats us
tell
down.
kids, I tell kids nowadays, I said, listen, never take no for an answer. And if it's okay, don't be annoying, but always find a different way. There's always a better, just like you said earlier, right? There's got to be a better way. So there's always a better way or a different way or a different approach, right? So as an entrepreneur, you decided to help other people, right? You're an advisor. You decided, you did this thing that could have been as big as Google, right? Or even a competitor to Google. And you kind of put that on the back burner. You went into the medical field. You created all these things. Now you're working on a special thing for hospitals and so forth. You're always looking for a better way. And you decided to help other people find a better way. What made you do that? What was that moment in time you said, I've been doing this and now it's time for me to help others?
Yeah, it's like a mindset shift. You kind of get to realize that it's not all about the top line and the bottom line. It's not, we obviously need to, survive, and commercially it has to make sense. But fundamentally, there's no greater return than seeing that you've either contributed to somebody's comfort, happiness, well-being. And like, I put a post on LinkedIn probably about 6 months ago, and I think the exact line was, giving generously usually gets the greatest return.
Yes.
Like, that is a key, and it's somewhat spiritual in the sense that I like to do the right thing, but having, life is, like I said, extremely short. We get an option and if we're lucky enough to be given skills that we can use to assist, support others, and still have a relatively good life,
right?
Ourselves. Like, when I was really working, I was probably running a couple of businesses, 3 businesses at one time at one stage. But I would work for like 3 months, diligently focused. And then at the end of the 3 months, I'd just let off steam, go meet our friends, have a massive party, wake up the next day with an excruciating hangover. And that maybe that's an Irish gene thing, but that was part of it. But when I was working, I was working. Right now, I very much focus on making a contribution as beneficial to society. As a species, we need to evolve. We need to make things better. We need to innovate. And if we've been given ideas and skills and the ability to make a change, then wouldn't it be a shame to just leave that behind?
Yeah.
And at the end of our stay here on this planet, I think the most satisfactory or most rewarding thing that we could say is that we made a contribution to evolving and developing and helping society. Usually people, I think the young entrepreneur mindset is very much commercial, and I gotta win sales, I gotta be a millionaire tomorrow, and I gotta be a billionaire in a month, and this kind of stuff. There's nothing wrong with that when you're young, because it's an evolution thing. You gotta learn. But as you clock up the miles, then your priorities shift a little bit, because you find that if you are a contributor to society and people's well-being, happiness, wellness, then the rewards come anyway.
Yeah.
It just success. It just comes on a plate, essentially. And it's the definition of success is really important as well. Definition of success is very relative.
Depends
If
who
I
you
make
talk to, for sure.
absolutely, yeah. If I go out and make a nice meal on a Friday evening and sit down and have a chat with a few friends and have a great laugh, that's a successful evening. If I develop a new business and build a new product that has super returns for investors, shareholders, stakeholders, the team that I'm working with, that's a success too.
Yeah.
So it really is like which basket and which kind of bracket we put success into.
Yeah.
But I really think fundamentally, if we are lucky enough to be able to do what we do and enjoy it, and get out there every day, open our eyes in the morning, maybe that's the first aspect. We have another day to do what we do, then that's a success in it.
Yeah. I love the fact that you brought that up, because for me, I realize that success is so different for everyone. For example, somebody may say, I'm going to buy this type of car. Maybe I'm going to spend $100,000 on a car, or I'm going to buy this Gucci watch, or all these different things. But success, as you said, is different for everyone else, because a mother living in a third world country, success may be just being able to feed her family, or feed her one child, or maybe put clothes on their child. That can be success. It can also be success can be somebody just maybe getting clear and clean drinking water. So success is everything that we make it. But let's not forget, when we're young, success is so different than when we get older. For people who don't take care of their health, success is not having to go to the doctor, or not having to take all these medications. And by the way, I lost Patrick again, and I hope he comes back, because I'm enjoying the conversation. One of the things that I'm going to be doing on January 1st, as anybody who's interested, is I'm going to start people on a 49-day success, fitness, and health journey. It starts January 1st, and I would hope that you will join me. It's going to be an everyday success shift, if you will. Welcome back, my friend. So right now I was talking about the difference, and I love the fact that you brought up success is different for everyone else. And I did mention the fact that, somebody may be successful if they feel like they bought a new car, bought a new home. But success can also be to a mom living in a third world country who maybe is able to feed their family or their child. Success can also be to a village that they just got, and I just saw you drink some water, some fresh drinking water. Success can be putting on a brand new pair of shoes and you've never worn shoes before, or success to somebody can be, hey, look at my collection, I have 30 pairs of shoes. Meanwhile, their success is, I'm 12 years old and this is my first pair of shoes.
There you go.
Success is what we make of it, right? And then the other thing is, I know that you're creating success for people who come and join you. If you're able to tell us how people can connect with you. If you're able to put in the private chat, I'll put it up here as well. One of the things, I'm starting a 49 success journey of health and fitness January 1st, and I was telling anybody who wants to join me just to reach out to me. And when we find success, a lot of times it's personal. But when you can help someone else find success, that success is exponentially huge, because it's not only for yourself, but it's for someone else as well. So I see your message in the private chat. Thank you, buddy. I will definitely put that out there for people to join you and follow you. And definitely.
Sounds good. And LinkedIn is also Patrick Noel Daly. LinkedIn, if you want to message me there, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm building a stronger social media profile now. I have had more time to kind of to have chats with people, to have more of a personality around things. Like I said, up to 2018, it was all about very focused on business and getting the job done. But in the last 4+ years, I've been able to connect more with.
Thinking he's off again. So he's looking to definitely create something. So follow him on LinkedIn. Um, one of the things that we have to understand is that when we are looking to make a change, the change has to come from within. You have to have the desire to create the change. The desire has to be yours. It has to be unique to you. It can't be what everybody else is doing. What is this one doing? What is that one doing? No, it's what are you willing to do? What are you willing to change to make that change happen? When we think of relative to our own success, it's us. We are the change. We have the change inside of us. If you want to lose weight, the change is in you. If you want to become financially independent, the successful image that you have to portray inside first is the most important one. And then you have to take the actions to make that happen. Thinking of all the success that you can have in your life, whether it's relationships, how do you show up? How do you show up on a Monday morning to work? How do you show up on a Wednesday afternoon to work? How do you show up on a Friday afternoon to work? It's your show up that's going to show your success. How do you show up in front of your family? How do you show up in front of your loved ones? When you show up, be you. Don't be someone else. When everybody wants to keep up with the Joneses, you don't want what the Joneses have, because maybe it's just a facade. Go for what you want. What is important to you? At the end of your life, who do you want there? Who do you want to be in your life? How often are you looking to make connections that are going to impact you? If those connections that you do have, and they are impacting you, but it's not in a positive way, then it is time for you to re-look, refocus as to who you want to be tomorrow. It's okay if today you failed, but tomorrow is an opportunity. Even from now on, 10 minutes from now is a new opportunity. 5 minutes from now, a minute from now, it's a new opportunity for you to change your life. Let's do it. I'm going to stay on a couple of more minutes, talk to you a little bit more about what I think that we should do to change and shift our perception of what we want. Sometimes we want what someone else wants for us. But when we dig deep, what is it that you want? What is it that you're good at? What makes you happy when you hear it, when you see it? Do you like to cook? Do you like to sew? Do you like to invent? Do you like numbers? Do you like data? Do you like to create? Are you a creator? Do you like to videotape? Do you like to have conversations? Do you like to write? What if you have an amazing story, but you don't like to write? There's so many programs out there that you can turn your speech to text, and that's how you can write your book. So there is no reason why you can't stop being amazing. I'm gonna share with you a couple of links that I have that you can follow me if you like. So here is how you can reach out to me. Here's my email. It's coachingcallpc@gmail.com. I have an amazing opportunity for everybody to really change their life. January 1st, I start an amazing, and just email me, an amazing journey, 49 days straight. Yes, you heard it here, 49 days straight. It's going to be a quick workout, 15, 20 minutes. That is it. I'm going to take you through fitness and health tips. We're going to talk about food intake, water intake, what types of products you should be consuming, what kind of products you need to work out. And it doesn't have to be expensive. If you don't want to go to a gym, you can do this at home. You can work out with me at home. So I want to thank everybody for being here. And I know Patrick wishes he can come and say goodbye. I am sure that I'm going to get him on, and I'm going to add to these comments. I'm going to share a video with him again. And I thank everybody for being here with me today and joining us on this live broadcast. And anything can happen when we go live. So thank you for being here. I appreciate all of you. Have an amazing rest of your day.